it's not going to matter too much. I think it's always more useful to have the scouting worker in the opponent's base just trying to cause a little bit of havoc. But with the Marine out here for Sharp, Light is unfortunately going to be forced to send his scout back.
And then Sharp is smartly positioning his barracks on the right side of his ramp. So if players like pro gamers when they are scouting, they usually like to walk their SCV up the ramp and then they turn away, like right away when they see nothing is on top of the ramp. That's a really smart move from Sharp because if the pro gamer do that, he wouldn't know where Sharp is until the very end.
And Light letting this SCV into his base by Sharp, it's not too critical right now, of course, but I always think, it's an unnecessarily... it's just like, it's not hard to stop the scout, I think. Even with two Marines, you can always have one sort of trying to block the SCV on the ramp, but regardless, letting scouts in, I always feel, is not good. At the very minimum, confirms for the opponent that there is nothing silly going on, so they can have some sort of peace of mind. If the scout's not in, they always have to wonder about, is there something crazy coming from the other player?
Yeah, in TBT especially, there's not really much to scout in the early game. As we saw, Light's SCV only got into the natural, but I believe he saw the command center, which limits Sharp's build order down to just one rack CC. So that's all the information really there was to get, which is why Light turned around. Sharp ran into the main, I guess hoping to see if more factories would be placed down really quickly, but Light had two Marines out, so he was able to kill that SCV before he threw down his extra factories. So no
I believe
really
Light has
good
actually put down a starport instead of two factories, just for clarification.
Oh yeah, sorry, I had that switch. Yeah, I think Sharp had the extra two factories, yeah, and Light has the starport.
Yeah, Light is anticipating raids coming out from Sharp, but Sharp is doing a two factory with two add-ons. This might be a Vulture heavy build, I assume, or a tank mid-game push.
There is also the possibility on this map of Terrans abusing the cliff, overlooking the natural. Putting tanks up there can be good, although most pro gamers do not have a problem warding that off, but still think is usually a pretty good maneuver. Even if the opponent has a few tanks on the bottom, you should be able to inflict at least 1-to-1 casualties, so I think if he does that, it could be a potential move coming out here from Light.
Yeah, Light showing his Wraith right away. Obviously, the barracks scattered his starport, so he wasn't really hiding that. Good enough to see if Light is going to commit to a lot of Wraiths, or if he's just getting one or two just to scout and poke around, see what's going on. He is, I actually believe, going to kill the barracks from Sharp, so that's kind of a detriment to Sharp if he wants to build any more factories anytime soon, but it won't be a huge deal in the long run.
Right. It also denies a bit of scouting information. I am a huge fan of pro gamers scouting proactively and knowing what the opponent is doing. So many games have been lost because of just arrogance and lack of scouting.
Yeah, like we see yesterday, I believe Flash only produced one race, and the other player went for 3 or 4 Goliaths, which make him pretty behind in the tank count, and then eventually loses the game. Looks like we have Sharp putting on the early contain with 3 siege tank and a Goliath here. I don't think that will be too critical. He's probably just looking forward to put early pressure on.
It does appear
Light is
that
taking the
Light
high
is
ground.
maneuvering... Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay, well, Light is maneuvering to take the high ground overlooking the mineral-only natural expansion there. It's very dangerous for a Terran player to be boxing. In fact, the game Flash versus... Who was the other Terran player? I can't remember from yesterday. I saw that game,
Classic?
and basically Flash boxed him into the corner, his quarter of the map, with a solid contain, and there was pretty much... It was last. Now I remember. It was last. And there was nothing last could do. He tried to break out. First time with a drop, but Flash had more bases. He only took down one expansion. The second time, Flash had plenty of reserves to patch up, and he used his Wraiths to clean up the dropship. Basically, I think this map can often come down in DVDs to who can sort of box the other person into their corner.
That's also what we saw yesterday in Reality versus Light. Reality going for that early Vulture build was able to gain a lot of territory and kind of contain Light into his top corner. He eventually pulled down to get the entire side of the map, but he wasn't really able to access the bases down the middle of the map. So in the end game, Reality just had way more bases than Light could manage to take, so he ended up winning the macro game. Both players setting up tank lines now. They're shooting each other a little bit. Not in a massive engagement, just picking up 1 or 2 tanks each. Light actually has a lot of tanks out, and he might be trying to push up the map.
He has 3 machine shops, by the way, on his factory. I believe Sharp may only have 2, and Light is getting the better of this engagement here. He is inflicting significant casualties with that scouting racks. His tanks having better range, doing a lot of damage to Sharp's forces, and Sharp really needs to be a bit more careful here.
Yeah, I don't understand why Sharp only have so few tanks. Maybe he produced too many glides when he see the race. He had an economic advantage when he went for 1 racks into CC, whereas Light went for factory into CC. And looks like both players grabbing their third expansion right now. I think we'll see a long game.
It is a very bold maneuver coming from Sharp. He didn't take the expansion at 12. He took it at the 9 o'clock, so he is basically telling Light, you better attack me here. And if Light can manage to break through and isolate that base, Light sneaking 2 vultures, it looks like into the main base here of Sharp. Sharp should be able to deal with this comfortably. He has a tank and a vulture here. Light will be able to pick up a few SCVs, but I don't think it's going to matter too much. I do not know why Sharp is not reacting so well, where his forces inside his base finally bring up 1 vulture to deal with this. Already Sharp losing several SCVs to a bit of negligence here, I have to say. Sharp not being the fastest in his reaction timing today, I have to say.
Yeah, Light has a lot of tanks out of the field right now. And then Sharp take the aggressive 9 o'clock expansion. This might work against him. We'll see.
Yeah, I think the
Here's that
problem,
Light. Go ahead.
Go ahead,
I think the
Frieza.
problem with that run by was the vulture that ran into the base from Sharp ran into his tank, and their AI kind of glitched a bit, and they ended up hanging back a few seconds, which can cost you a lot. Really have to be careful with all your units at this high of a level. Light has several vultures out on the map now. I'm gonna see if he tries to go for another run by.
My video just froze there for a moment. Are we seeing Sharp, are we seeing Light's tank line now and 3 vultures, 4 vultures? Look
Yeah,
at
I believe
time.
that was on
You have
management then,
10:37.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, never mind. So I am seeing, looks like there is some more action here in the middle of the map. Light is trying to sort of form a conclave there to flank the forces of Sharp, and if he can manage to defeat this army and secure the 9 o'clock position, it will almost certainly be GG here from Sharp. Light also with drop coming into the natural. Sharp Light being much faster in this game, it seems, and my video just froze.
Looks like a tank and 2 vulture jobs are coming in from Sharp here, and from Light here. And all of Sharp's units are out on the field right now. And then he's bringing his vultures back, trying to clean out the forge. But there's a vulture inside his main doing a lot of damage. And he's forced to pull his SCVs off the line.
It was kind of weird that he pulled all of his SCVs from his natural into his main, and all of his SCVs from his main into his natural. Kind of funny seeing them all run by there. A little bit of damage there done by Light. I don't think he lost the dropship, so that's good. So he's going to be able to keep putting pressure on with that dropship, and that's something that Sharp's going to have to contend with. Light is actually pushing up the map now with all of his tanks. He has way more tanks than Sharp has on the map, and the stream is being terrible.
I think Sharp Light will be able to break this here.
Okay, now I see action here. Massive breakout attempt
Oh
here by
my
Light.
God.
He's breaking through the defenses. Sharp is doing his best with mines to try to hold this off. I do not think Sharp has enough units. He needs to send reinforcements now to shore up his defenses, or else he is going to lose his base at the 9 o'clock, and with that, surely he will lose the game. Light seems to have at least a 3 or 4 to 1 superiority in his tank count on the field here.
If this siege line of Sharp get taken out here, his bases at 9 o'clock will be gone, and he will be in a really horrible position. Might even lose the game here. And we see 4 add-ons for Sharp. He's desperately trying to produce more tanks. Looks like Light is trying to move immaturely here. He lost 3 tanks and didn't get a kill.
Yeah, kind of clumsy there from Light pushing forward with just a few tanks instead of all of them, leaving some of them sieged. I still think he has a significant lead in tank count. Actually, Sharp has several more out now, so he desperately needs to hold on to that 9 o'clock. Like you guys said, if he loses that 9 o'clock base, then there's almost no hope for him to come back in this game. since he's down on tanks and wraiths, there's very little that he can capitalize on. There's not really an advantage that he can press right now. He needs to try to get some sort of harass off, but at the same time, there's another dropship coming up from Light, and this is partially harass, partially just to pull some of Sharp's troops back. So I think Light might try to push forward a little bit more once this harass gets off.
Light also appears to be getting a few wraiths and cloak. There's a single wraith out here for Sharp. He's going to intercept this dropship. The dropship should be able to drop something in the main, but it goes down with only one vulture drop. It can still cause a bit of havoc. It can, for instance, slay the science facility, but the wraith should be able to clean up the vulture fairly comfortably here. Light not really succeeding with that. Perhaps if he had time to drop with a concurrent push at the front, he would be able to get through, but Sharp has reinforced right now. He has plenty of tanks to defend, and Sharp just barely holding on to his defenses there. He cannot afford to be pushed back any further. That position also, Light has expanded. I can't tell on my stream how many expansion he has, but did he put down 2 command centers at the bottom
expanded.
right, it looks like?
Yeah, double expanded at the natural and the main of the 5 o'clock.
And at the same time, Sharp pretty bold trying to take an expansion at the 2 o'clock. There's no way he'd be able to defend that if he got that up. He was just hoping that Light wouldn't scud, but he did scud right away. A couple vultures now running into the 3rd of Sharp, chasing the SCVs away and forcing a lift on the command center, but they will be chased off as well.
Yeah, Sharp is in a pretty horrible position. He has a lesser army and he has lesser bases. And on the cold rays coming in from Light, they're gonna pick up a tank a little bit, and then it's gonna take off all of Sharp's rays. This is not looking too good for Sharp.
Aerial combat there, dogfight, I have to say, although there were some Goliath anti-air units on the ground. These raids coming to try to harass, but they would be wise to avoid. Goliath certainly, it depends on what Light goes for. Usually the Terran player, I think, is best off in the mid/late game. I mean, at this point it's definitely late game. At the beginning of the late game, to employ a few raids as either spotters or as dropship snipers, or to harass tanks that are unescorted. But Terran can transition from this strategy into upgraded raids and build something like 30 of them and just crush everything. But hold that thought, Light is launching another attack here in the front. Great mine placements by his vultures. He managed to destroy a clump of tanks there of Sharps. But Light still not able to achieve a decisive breakthrough. He has snuck a few vultures into, it looks like, the 2 o'clock there to just stop that base from getting up, although Sharp wouldn't really have any chance of really getting that base up anyway. Sharp now reinforcing with more tanks. He is trying to shore up his position here at the eastern edge of the map, and it looks like there is a demarcation line, if you would, a massive siege line just running down through the middle of the map, dividing the map evenly, I have to say. That is how it appears to me.
But it just seems like there's more yellow dots than red dots in the map. And then more vultures coming in to harass the base at 3 o'clock for Light. I don't know why Sharp